Just 200 miles north of the deepest point on Earth, the Mariana Trench, lies an island only 30 miles long, roughly the distance between Rexburg and Idaho Falls. This western Pacific paradise is host to glorious sandy beaches, rolling green hills, and 60,000 US citizens who have little say in the laws that govern them. I am referring to the island of Guam. Having lived for 2 years in and around Guam, I've come to understand the local people known as Chamorros, their rich culture, and their political suffering. Whilst Guam has a complicated history of being subject to various colonial rule, it currently sits in the hands of the United States. As I explain the political implications Guam faces, I wish to help you also understand the significance of such a small landmass in a vast oceanic area. We will look at where Guam stands in the eyes of the United States, its citizens' rights, the United States military dependence on Guam, Guam's claim to equality with the United States, and its efforts to obtain independence. First, why should you care about these people that live almost half a world away? Now, although situated about 3,800 miles from the closest US state, Hawaii, Guam still functions under the same form of government. Following World War II, when the United States fought to retake Guam from Japanese rule, President Harry S. Truman signed into law the Organic Act of Guam on August 1st, 1950. This established a legislative, executive, and judicial branch of government in Guam, the very same form of government established by the Founding Fathers in the United States Constitution over 200 years ago. However, Guam is classed as an unincorporated and organized territory of the United States, meaning the United States government recognizes Guam, along with several other islands, including the Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands, as mere overseas possessions. In these unincorporated territories, not all constitutional rights are approved to the inhabitants. Only fundamental rights and those applied by legislature are effective. Some rights, such as the right to vote for the President of the United States of America, are restricted. So what we have just discovered is that although the US government is established in Guam, its people do not have the same rights as those in the mainland. So, what rights do they have? At the close of the 19th century, in 1898, the United States took control of Guam from Spain. We'll discuss this a little bit more later. So any Chamorro born after April 11th, 1899 is considered a citizen of the United States. This means that Chamorros have US passports, they have free passage throughout the United States and its territories, Social Security, the right to work, the right to serve in the military, they use US money, they're taught in the US style of schooling, and they receive funding from the US government. Now, when it comes to working in government, however, Guam elects just one delegate in the United States House of Representatives, where legislative laws are passed. However, this delegate has no vote in the final pass of legislation. So when it comes to voting for the President of the United States, Guam has no votes in the Electoral College. Locals of Guam vote in what is basically just an opinionated vote of popularity that has no effect on the outcome of the general election. Now, with this in mind, let's take a little bit more of a look at Guam's history and how it's progressed. So Guam has been under colonial rule for most of its history since its discovery in 1521. During this time, Spain, Japan, and the United States have each fought for rule over this tiny island. The Chamorro people have been subject to cruelty, epidemic, natural disaster, internal conflict, military rule, forced labor, incarceration, and execution in its horrific history. The United States military has an established Air Force and Navy base on Guam. US military bases cover 29% of the island. Because of the island's location, roughly 1,500 miles south of Japan and east of the Philippines, it gives the United States a strong strategic position in the Western Pacific and Asia. Recently, under the North Korean missile threat, locals fear that being caught in the collateral damage of a potential outbreak of war, and Guam has strengthened its pursuit of the freedom from the US. In recent years, Guam has contended for statehood and union with the state of Hawaii. The federal government has rejected such movements. Guam Governor Eddie Calvo said in his State of the Island address on March 31st, 2016, "It's time we confronted the fact that for nearly 400 years, the state of the island has also been colonial. It is unchanged and unrepentant. Its shadow cast upon our unshackled destiny. It seems that the United States relies on Guam for military stability in the Pacific and is holding on to it as much as possible whilst restricting its citizens and not giving them full constitutional rights. It's arguable that had Spain or Japan continued rule over Guam, that the locals would have continued to suffer. During its history, the United States has granted more freedom to Guam than any other ruling nation. From my experiences, many locals are happy with the way things are. However, many of the older generation who recognize the Americanization of their culture wish to obtain independence. Although we've seen many reasons why Guam benefits from US rule, we also see the benefits of security and allegiance come at a cost of political rights. Whilst Guam is governed like most other states, they are not given full authority in federal government. Chamorros are just as much citizens as anybody from Idaho, yet lack the right to vote. Guam fights for independence, but the government denies them freedom. In closing, I hope I have opened your eyes to the oppression that the United States has over its overseas possessions. Where possible, I urge you to consider these facts and be a voice in your communities to advocate the implementation of full rights to the Chamorro people, to advocate its statehood to be in full fellowship with your country, or to petition for its sovereignty. As the Chamorro people say, "Si Dios ma'ase." Thank you.